over at whatever it was, AT&T, and they were just closing up. So today's Wednesday, I didn't have a chance. So maybe tomorrow after our thing. And those lesson course are wonderful. IT people know what to do. Okay.
He's not listening.
I don't blame him.
Probably they're eating.
I wouldn't be listening either. I'm going to call a meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Braden,
Aye, here.
Scott Heyman, Mr. Heyman,
Here.
Mr. Bauer?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here.
4 present, we have a quorum.
Got an echo.
Okay, approval of the agenda.
So I have a quick question. The 2 closed session items are both listed as anticipated litigation, but we got an email in our inbox of a memo about discussing potential council appointments, and I'm wondering, is that listed properly on the agenda? Okay, I just don't know that I think that's listed clearly, but okay.
I'll move approval. Second.
Please vote. Oh, he's got it. Okay, there he goes. 3 ayes, 1 no with Ms. Stevens. Motion carries.
Okay, we will go into closed session. I appreciate that opportunity. Okay, we will come back with a city attorney's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Council met in closed session on 2 items listed in the agenda. No final action was taken for either one. There was discussion and direction was given to staff. No final action taken. One of those items was potential litigation related to the filling of the vacant council seat.
Okay, next item is public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Public comment is listed to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there anyone who would like to speak?
Scott Miller, resident of Ridgecrest. I haven't said this in a little while, but I'm going to say it again, that our city has assigned an active MSA with the Timbershire tribe. And I know there's pending litigation, Mr. Pilchin, that you won't make any comments on. But something that was brought up a few months ago was the city's obviously hired attorneys, and where my concern lies, and Mr. Pilchin, please don't be offended by this, but a lot of attorneys just are in there for the money, and they'll keep saying, yeah, we got this, no problem. And talking to other business owners in Los Angeles and San Francisco that I'm friends with, when they're involved in litigation, they're told, yeah, we got this, don't worry. And just as they're about to go into the trial or the litigation, the attorney who's been telling them we got this comes up and says, we don't got this. And they spent all that money because the attorney keeps telling them, we got this. You may not have this. So, folks, just remember, we have assigned an active MSA. The city agreed to have the property for the casino over there in the entertainment complex. And that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jody Schultz. I'm a recruiting assistant from the Bakersfield Regional Census Center, and I want to thank you for the great response that I've gotten this week since I came and spoke to you last time. And I just wanted to share with everybody, my job as a recruiter is to get the word out that next year is 2020. We're going to be doing the census again, and we are hiring people to be field managers and enumerators. We need people to apply for these census jobs. Applications are being processed now. They're being accepted online, and the pay is really good, $17 to $18.50 an hour plus mileage. Applicants can go online. I've been around town a few places, and there's all kinds of information on the internet if they want to get on there and just Google Census 2020, and they can see where they can go to apply for these jobs. Training starts in March. And who should apply? Anybody over the age of 18 who's a United States citizen. Tomorrow there'll be recruiters out at the American Job Center by DMV from 10 to 2. And then Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be a recruiting team out at the Santa's Art Shop at the fairgrounds. And so if you are interested, come on by and we will help you get on board. If you're a business owner and you're willing to put a census yard sign up on your property, please see me after the meeting so I can get your address and I will deliver one to you. If you'd like to display materials at your office, I can provide those to you also. And I just ask that you would please spread the word that the census is coming. You'll be getting a form in the mail sometime in January. And if you don't want to knock on the door sometime this spring, then fill it out and send it in. All data collected is protected. Your identity will not be made public. And we just want an accurate count of the population so that Ridgecrest and the surrounding area can receive what's due them according to the population count. And I just want to thank you for your time and this opportunity to share this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing no other public comment, we will go to council announcements. I'm going to give you a bunch of them and just remind you there's a lot of things going on. We have the Christmas tree lighting December 7th at 6 o'clock here. And we are having a candy cane hunt to begin at 4 o'clock here. So a lot of things for the kids to enjoy. Wanted to also remind you about the Christmas parade for the Elks Club. It's going to be the 51st one, and it is a $10 entry fee. And it is on the 14th, and there's information here if you would like to participate in that. City Hall will be closed the week of Monday 12/23 to Friday 12/27 for the Christmas holiday. It will also be closed on Wednesday 1/1 for the New Year's holiday. We also have coming up the city Ridgecrest tree lighting at Freedom Park with the 3rd annual Winter Festival. We have a bake sale. We have live music, crafts, a cake contest. Everybody's going to have great fun, and we hope that you all participate, and that is going to be on December 7th from 4 to 5:30 here at the Kerr-McGee Center. Also, in honor of the Daughters of the American Revolution, they're laying wreaths at the Desert Memorial Park on Saturday, December 14th at 8:45 a.m., and they are inviting all of you to attend and participate. I've been involved with it for 3 years now, and it is a pretty moving ceremony, and I certainly invite all of you to attend. Those are all the council announcements I have. How about others?
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry for being late, but I would like to make a community announcement if you would, could you indulge me?
I think we can do that. You're just going to make it a short announcement, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Is there anybody, while we're waiting for Dave to come up, is there any of the council who has announcements that they would like to make?
Most of you already know I just had surgery a couple weeks ago. I can only sit for so long and I have to get up and walk around. I hope no one takes offense. I don't mean any offense to anybody that might be speaking if I get up and take a short jaunt around the council chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dave?
Yes, I appreciate the compensation here. I just wanted to mention, as a member of the Knights of Columbus, the annual Christmas dinner that we will be serving. It's not just the Knights, it's anybody that wants to volunteer, and we can get you sign-up sheets. You can call the Knights of Columbus Hall. It's 760-375-8901. Probably get an answering machine, just leave a message. You can come down and help, or you can come join us, have dinner. And we will also accept financial donations, because we do have to put out some money to front some of the things that we need to take care of. And with that, that's about all I need to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Next item is consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff and will be approved in one motion if no member of the council or the public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from public comment before any action is taken. I'm going to read approve a resolution confirming the continuance of a local emergency. That's the only item on the consent calendar. Okay, and is there anybody who would like to have that item removed? Okay.
I move
Council?
approval.
Second.
Okay.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is discussion and action items. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest approving revisions to the city's existing drug and alcohol policy approved by the City Council Resolution 1617 and amended by Resolution 1836.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm Christopher Smith, the Transit Services Coordinator. Before we get started, I did mistakenly forget to include the 2018 addenda in the initial supporting documents. So I had Rika pass out a copy of that to everybody on the dais, and there are copies up here on this table. Also, I apologize for formatting errors in any of the documents themselves. Rika and I are going to work to get those cleaned up. So some history about the city's drug and alcohol policy. The policy in this format was approved in 2016 and then updated with that addenda in 2018. The main change to that addenda was the change from opiates to opioids, which encompasses drugs like OxyContin, oxyhydrocodone, some of those other synthetic opioids. So then in September of 2019, we had a drug and alcohol policy review through Caltrans as we receive FTA, Federal Transit Administration funds. And so they came back with some suggested changes, which is what I'm presenting to you here tonight. A brief summary of the drug and alcohol program covers who is tested, and so we test employees performing safety-sensitive functions within transit, streets, and wastewater. And those are primarily employees who have commercial driver's license and were operating passenger vehicles or heavy machinery, as well as staff who may be working on those vehicles or dispatching those vehicles. When are we testing them? We're testing them at pre-employment. We're conducting random tests. We're conducting a reasonable suspicion tests, and then qualifying post-accident tests. And I say qualifying post-accident tests because there are certain FTA and FMCSA reasons that you must conduct a test afterwards. Those include a fatality, if a party is transported from this, or if a party receives medical attention away from the scene, such as if they go to the hospital, and not specifically if they're transported by ambulance, and if a vehicle has disabling damage. The FMCSA one is slightly different for disabling damage. They require disabling damage and a citation issued to a party involved within 8 hours. And then what we're testing for. So we're testing for marijuana, cocaine, opioids, amphetamines, and PCP. Now, a brief summary of the revisions is we're incorporating some changes from the addenda to the original policy. So we're changing the initial policy to say opioids instead of continuing to say opiates and then referring to a separate document, the 2018 addenda. We're updating based on some definitions and interpretations that have changed from the FTA Office of Drug and Alcohol Program Compliance. We're also updating the list of job titles performing safety-sensitive functions, so those people who work in streets, wastewater, and transit. Some of those weren't on the correct list. So are there any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
I was reading it, and I frankly did not recall it at the last time when we read it, but we talked about random testing. Mm-hmm. And random, to me, can be capricious or arbitrary. Would you explain how we do our random testing?
Yes, so we have a contract with SAS, and every quarter they generate a list using some software that they have. We're required throughout the year, we were previous to 2018, we were required to test 25% of the people, our total safety-sensitive employees. but it increased to 50% in 2018. So we're required to test total 50% of our employees throughout the year. So every quarter they choose a list.
Okay, so it's chosen by our administrator rather
Yes.
than by you, who
Correct.
may not like this person or who accuses you of
Correct.
being
And
unfair to
they
that?
use a software to
Okay.
do so.
Good, thank you. I wanted to make sure that was out there in the public. Okay, is there any other questions?
I have a quick question on the MRO verification of prescriptions on the second page of the handout that you gave us.
The addenda one? This
Yes.
one? Mm-hmm.
So it says when a tested employee is taking a prescribed medication after verifying the prescription and immediately, I won't read through the whole thing, but so basically there's a 5-day period there where you're waiting for the physician to respond back to the employer.
Correct.
During that 5-day period, is that employee still performing safety or risk jobs?
They do not report it to us until after that employee has had the opportunity to show their prescription. So, yes, the employee would be performing safety-sensitive jobs.
But should they be performing those jobs if they're on those kinds of prescriptions?
So there is in the policy itself, it's a city provision. Anything that's underlined in the policy itself, there is a provision that if they're on those kind of prescriptions, they have to provide written documentation to their supervisor from their doctor that says that they are able to perform the type of job listed.
So if they test positive and they haven't done that,
Right. Then because of medical privacy laws, the MRO, which is the medical review officer, is going to contact that person. They're not going to contact us or anyone else. They're going to contact that person and tell them, you've tested positive for this. Do you have a prescription? And they have an opportunity to provide their prescription. And then otherwise they're going to report it as either they provide a prescription, it's going to be reported as a negative test. If they do not provide a prescription within that appropriate period of time, it's going to be reported as a positive test.
but shouldn't we be notified if they haven't turned in that they were doing their job with that prescription?
So the FDA has detailed out this pretty stringently against us being able to do that because of the medical privacy laws.
Yeah.
Is there any other comment, questions? Public? Okay.
I think Dave's coming up.
Yes, I understand the randomness that you mentioned and how it's generated, but what I'm wondering is, does somebody just show up then to find that person and say, come on, you're going to have a test, or police chief come and get them, or what?
So the person is either notified by me or their supervisor, and once we notify them, they have a 15-minute window that they have to report to the drug test.
15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Council? Okay, motion?
Second.
Please vote. Maybe.
I don't think we can.
It's not popping up and he's not. Okay,
Okay,
we'll
now
do a
we can
roll
do
call
it?
vote. Mayor Breeden,
Aye.
Mr. Heyman,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer. Aye. Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is a discussion to provide direction concerning filling the vacancy on council. So, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a follow-up to the last meeting when we talked about the vacancy left by Mr. Martin. So this item is for the council members to talk about how they would like to fill the vacancy and to give direction to staff. So as we talked about at the last meeting, state law governs this process, and state law requires that the city fill the vacant council position by one of two ways, either by holding a special election or by appointment. The appointed or specially elected council member will serve only the remainder of the vacated term. So in the case of Mr. Martin's vacancy, that would be till the next election would be next November. And then I guess the inauguration is January. Is that how that works? December, sorry. Okay, so the council member is seated in December. So however the new council member is selected, that term will only be for the remainder of that term till the end of next year. Okay, so the timing under the state law is 60 days, either by filling the vacancy by appointment before 60 days or by calling the special election before 60 days. So obviously the actual special election could not occur within that time. And the only other thing I'll mention is before you all talk about how you want to do this, is that there is, the law does allow that the appointment of a council member, that qualifies as a personnel action under the Brown Act, which means that there is the option of meeting in closed session and actually voting on the appointment. Provided that, or in that case, then, of course, that would be a final action that would be reported out in open session. So it's available to you. It's not a requirement. Thank you.
Okay, is there council discussion on that? I, for one, do not want to have an election. I think it's an opportunity for us to make a choice based on those people who signified us by filling out an application that they would like to be considered. We heard, Ron, you told us the cost of an election was from Kern County, you were told?
It'd be approximately $70,000.
Okay, I don't think $70,000, we have it sitting in our pocket. And I would like to see what the people who want to be considered for appointment to this, fill out an application and allow us to look at that and come back. What is the discussion and the feeling in council? Do any of you agree or disagree with that?
I agree that I would like to see us do a council appointment of the position. I'd like to see us move as quickly as we can because of time constraints, and so I'd like to see it agendized on for the next meeting, so that so what we would want to do is have applicants get their applications in as soon as possible, so that we would have time to review those before the next city council meeting, and so that's the direction I'd like to see us go.
And this is a standard application, correct, Ron?
Correct. I believe we were talking about using citizen services application. So we would obviously validate residency, and there'd be a couple of specific questions that they'd have to answer.
And so applicants can pick that up at the city clerk's desk?
We could have them pick it up at the city clerk's desk, or we could offer it online.
It is online. It's on our webpage.
So they have an option of online or getting it in person.
Could we make sure that it would be on the front page of the website?
I can try.
Not buried.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll print out extra copies too and put them down on the information desk so people don't actually have to come up to my window to get them. To turn them in, they obviously would need to, but they could just pick them up from the information counter and fill them out. I'll put a stack there.
Yeah, we could also post on the city's Facebook page and obviously prepare a press release for that information. The only thing staff would need from council is at what end date we would quit accepting applications. So we could place that on Facebook and the city website.
I'm in favor of appointing also, and I'd like to see it, if possible, done at the next meeting.
Lindsay, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I wanted to hear from the public to see what their thoughts are on.
Okay.
Until, before we start, I'd just like to kind of clear up too that, so the next city council meeting will be December 18th, correct?
Correct.
And so if we were to put a time frame to have the applicants, we need to have the applicants beforehand so that it can be put on the agenda. And so as far as a date,
And so council members can look at them.
exactly, that's what I was going to get to, is that we would need to be able to review that. And so those names would be apparently listed on the agenda then for that next council meeting. So we would need to have those applicants by that, Thursday. So what I'm getting at here is what date do we want to set as kind of that time frame so the applicants know, hey, I need to have it in by, if we back up to that following week, Thursday, or where do we draw that line for the deadline?
But we could also post a supplemental.
That's, I was going to suggest, I will be posting the agenda for the 18th meeting on Thursday the 12th. The item can be on the agenda, and then on Monday the 16th, I can put out a supplemental with the names in it. So if you guys had everybody turn it in by Thursday the 12th, or even Monday morning by noon,
Well, yeah. Okay.
I could get it posted before I go home Monday night, but it has to be done by Monday.
On the 16th?
Monday the 16th,
Yeah.
correct.
By noon.
By
is
noon,
what she's
okay.
saying.
So, yeah, if they turn them into me by Monday the 16th at noon, I could get something posted by Monday night before I leave, yeah. And then it'll be on the agenda for the 18th.
If they fill out the when they fill out the application, if any of you want to include anything else in that, we're not going to limit it to just the application, so.
Staple an extra page to it, absolutely,
Yeah,
if you have anything you want to
exactly.
add.
There's space in there to include other information if you'd like.
Would the city council wish the city clerk to email all of those applications to council after the noon deadline on
Yes.
Monday?
Yes.
Yes.
Or as we get them in.
Yeah, that's
So
what
I would like to see them as we get them in, so we can not have to read 25 or 2 at one time. Okay. Okay, is there any other discussion from council? Okay, any discussion from the public?
I'm sure there's going to be a little discussion for the public, so if they excuse me, I'm going to do a little walking around while I'm listening.
Didn't hear what you said.
He's going to be walking around because Mike isn't able to sit.
I'm
So
sorry.
he's not ignoring you.
Yeah.
He can hear.
Since there is less than a year of this term to be filled, I would suggest, because we don't know what kind of important decisions that may have to be made next year, I would suggest that you limit the appointees or the applicants to people that have already served on the council at one time or another, or mayor or whatever. Because a year, sometimes, you guys probably already experienced this, a year is you're still wet behind the ears. So somebody that's not been on the council before may take a while and may be fumbling around. And I would suggest very adamantly that you consider only people that have served before. I've already talked to a couple of those people that I know of, and they said they would be willing to do that. Now, the application thing was something that kind of threw us off here because I wasn't thinking in terms of them actually applying, but rather being appointed. So that is my suggestion, and I strongly urge you to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Council. Scott Miller, resident of East Wilson, Ridgecrest. I have a bunch of different questions. First question is, do we have protocols in place now to verify residency rather than looking at someone's driver's license?
Rika, how are we doing that? Can you address that, please?
In the past, it's been by driver's license. When we have an election, it's done by Kern County, not by the city clerk's office. It's done by the county clerk.
How would we?
As far as citizen service applications for planning commission or council, in this instance, it's always been driver's license. So,
I think one of the ways that we can do that is assume that people are not going to lie and that they are going to tell us where they live. I think if there's any, if I'm wrong on this, Ron or council, tell me. But I think we have to assume that they're applying in good faith, that they want to be, and so that you have to be 18 years old, you have to live inside the city of Ridgecrest, and you have to, is there anything other than that?
You have to be registered to vote at that
registered,
location.
yeah, thank you, that's kind of important. Okay, and so if, we will look closely to make sure that they have not given us false information.
if I may, that's even more of an important thing that needs to be noted, that all the applications need to come to specific people, not just handed into somebody. So I don't know how we necessarily want to address that.
And I'm to you?
Well, I don't want me to be the only person in case I happen to be at lunch or something. That's not fair. So we kind of need to address that if we're going to be.
Staff can address that during the application process.
Okay.
Just a thought, the new real IDs that are issued by the DMV, when they do the real IDs, I believe you have to have 3 or 4 different forms of ID that verify the address. So perhaps using the real ID, just a random thought. Part 2 to that, not using that, having the power company, water, power, gas, and driver's license showing their current address is another opportunity with that. The thing I think I also may have missed, that I think I understood that we're going to take applications and they'll be submitted to council as they come in. And then those names will be posted on that Monday and they will be interviewed by council during the next meeting? Or how? I deal with applications on a very regular basis and I deal with thousands of them. I don't know how you would go through those kind of resumes and.
Well, we have time if we do it at the meeting on the 16th. 18th. If we have time, we will certainly try to do that. If we can't get everybody in, because we have to have it done within the 60 days, we would like to be able to, if we can't do it, we will adjourn to another meeting.
If I may, Madam Mayor, there's no requirement that there be an interview process. That's completely up to you. If council wants to interview individuals, you are free to do that, but that is not a required
Their phone numbers
process.
On the citizen, or methods of contact are on the citizen service application.
Right.
So I know when I was on planning commission, Ms. Acton called me and whoever else applied and had a personal discussion before making the appointment. And so we could do that as well.
What I think I just heard was there's no application process that's required, but they'll have the phone numbers and names on there. So somebody could quite literally walk up with a bunch of names and say, okay, I like this person, and this person. What do you think?
We want the individual person to apply.
When the applications are here, Madam Mayor, from what I just think, I'm trying to make sure I understood it correctly, from what I think I just heard Councilperson Stevens say, is they'll have the names on the applications, and there's no interview process required from what I think I just heard.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, sir.
This is the time that council is receiving input from the citizens. They haven't made the final decision yet.
I understand that. I'm trying to understand the protocol behind it, because that's important to the people of Ridgecrest, is what's the protocol behind it? Are you guys going to sit up here and pick up 4 names and say, I like this person? Or do they just have to be registered to vote and live in the city of Ridgecrest and then be popular vote? I know, I'm just trying to figure out the protocol.
What has been discussed so far was that applications would be taken until the 16th at noon. They would be distributed as they're received to council members to be reviewed. And then if council members need more information from that application, their phone numbers are listed. They can call those people and talk to them. And then it would be, what's being discussed so far is that it would possibly be listed on the 18th meeting to make an appointment from those list of names that filled out the citizen service application. It wouldn't just be walking in with a list of names randomly. They would have to have filled out the application and been verified.
Understood, but it's actually what you just said is what I said. You're going to have a list of names. Mr. Strand, if I'm going over my time, I apologize. I just want clarification. I understand you're going to have applications. I get that. As Mr. Pilchin just said, there's no requirement to do that. So if Councilperson Heyman has a question for Mr. Smith, will all of council be notified of what Mr. Heyman's question is? Will it be individual? If there are interviews, are they going to be as a group? Are they going to be individual?
It'd be individual if they do it, and then during the deliberation process, they can discuss amongst themselves the individual candidates and then make the selection as a majority. Correct.
Only in the public meeting can we discuss what we've discussed privately on the phone with the.
Let me clarify that in a meeting, it must be, it can be discussed. So if let's put it this way, I mean, keep in mind that this does not happen all the time, so this is new. And Mr. Miller, I think you are, of course, welcome to raise thoughts that you have, but like we've said before, this isn't a question and answer time. So if you see vulnerabilities, please, share them.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
So that's the idea. But just to correct something or to clarify something that Mayor Pro Tem Stevens said is, if a council member has a private discussion, personal discussion with a potential applicant, which they're free to do, they're always free to pick up the phone and talk to whoever they want, then the sharing of that information with other council members would have to happen in a meeting. Now, that meeting could happen in a public open meeting, or as I said earlier, there's the possibility of having a closed session on that. So that option is available to the council.
Okay, my time is up. Unfortunately, I'm not getting it. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Raymond Kelso, 2362 Lou Mill Street, and I live in the county. I'd like to talk a little bit about the discussion that's been going on here. I would like to remind you folks that are sitting in those chairs that you are elected officials. And what makes me a little nervous, and I think other people a little nervous too, is that you're talking just because you're more concerned about the schedule and not the fair and equitable approach here to get another council person. I would highly recommend that you do go through the election process. Money should not be an issue. I think the process is very important, especially in some of the highly political issues that we have here. I see you open up a bag of worms, and who's going to make the decision of who makes the decision on this political appointee, and that's what it looks like. So I vote for an election. I don't care what it cost. There was a whole bunch of money spent to get rid of Wallace Martin. I don't know who paid for that.
Not by the city, sir.
And I don't know.
No, I can tell you that. Not by the city.
Okay, that's good to know.
Thank you.
Which it makes even more curious as to where did the money come from. You got to remember that the public here only gets a minor bit of information, and that's probably from the two papers that we have. Got a lot of questions. Have a lot of questions about who you're looking at, why you favor them, what's the process, what's politics got to do with this, all of that. I would highly recommend you go through the election process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Scott Leahy. I think an appointment is what you should do. There's 1 year left, basically, in the term, and we don't need to spend $70,000 to have what. First of all, we are past the window for trying to tag it on into March. I mean, if we had, for the primaries, if we had enough lead time, we could possibly consider that and get it done economically. But that window is passed. We're 91 days from the March primary now, so it's not something that we can do. Quick question. I read a document that was supposedly a layperson's description of the process, and they said that there was a 30-day window. Was that an error, or has the number of days since the vacancy occurred before the city council must either appoint or hold a special or call an election?
60 days is in the state law. I'm not sure what that person was quoting.
Yeah, it was a general law city stuff, just I found on Google. So, but anyway, I trust you guys to come up with something fair and equitable. And I want to also add my voice to, I think the city needs to do a little bit more due diligence on whether a person is actually domiciled in Ridgecrest, whether they live here. It's been an open secret that Wallace Martin lived in the county and then drove into the council meetings. And everybody knows that in town. And it turns out that the only way to address something like that, which is patently illegal, the only way to address something like that is going through the Attorney General's office. Now, that is difficult. I would hope that we can come up, as a council, with an equitable, easy way, like a utility bill, some documentation to establish that you are indeed a resident of the city of Ridgecrest, you're registered to vote here, you live here, and you pay your taxes here.
Is there a process for doing that?
We do have a process that was, I believe we came up with a new form for applying for city council position. We can use that form for the application process that has a little bit more meat to it when it comes to making sure that your domicile is in the city of Ridgecrest, a little bit more of an explanation as it pertains to the government code and case law. So we can.
It would be nice if we had that in place for these applications.
But I've never even seen this form.
The citizen service application says on it, address must be within city limits to serve on any committee. And again, I'll remind you that the process that we have in place is done by the county. It's all done by the county clerk. We send them all the information that we're given, the applications, the voter registration, all the paperwork they fill out for the campaign, and the county approves everybody, not me. So any process that
not blaming you, Rick.
I'm just saying that we don't have a process that we can change. It's the county that does that. So
in this case, though, the county would not be involved. Is that correct?
Correct. In this case.
So
correct.
What is?
We will work on an equitable process. It's
Okay.
not something we can do on the fly here, but I do have an idea how we can handle it. We did come up with a new form that we generated for the last city council meeting that we can use on this application process, but we'll figure it out.
Excellent. Okay. Anyway, my vote's for appointment.
Is there any other who would like to speak? If others wish to speak after Mr. Neal, please come up.
Oh, good. Looks like baby got your display fixed in here. Thank you. Okay, first I want to address the city attorney's comments on this. I just looked like 5 minutes before that to the article or the brochure that's been published for years by the California League of Cities on appointing, and it specifically says that if you're going to have closed session discussions about this, that personnel are not elected officials, are not people that sit on this seat up here. You can have closed session discussion about personnel things, but one of you guys is not qualified as personnel, and you cannot have closed session discussions about this. If you do that, I'm going to bring current correct letters up here, and I'll see if I can find some support to take the city to court. If that happens, that's not right. Every discussion about this should be right here in front of everybody. This just looks like nothing but manipulation of the process in order to get stuff going on behind the doors back there. And I don't appreciate it, and I know a lot of people don't appreciate it. Now,
we haven't said we were going to do that, sir. He gave us, that was one of our options.
I'm just telling you.
Thank you.
I'm warning you what I'll do if this happens. It should not happen, period. Okay? Now let me get on to whatever else I have to say about this. If you want to continue stoking the divisiveness and the contention and the distrust in this town that's gone on for 3 years over this issue, or the fact that the same statement you, Madam Mayor, made earlier about approving the MSA and not letting the people have a referendum vote on it and appoint somebody and not let the people vote on it this time, you're going to make it worse. There are going to be people, all kinds of people, screaming, backroom scheming, manipulations, so forth and so on. Like Mr. Kelso said, thank you, Mr. Kelso. You beat me to it, and you did it very well. This needs to be elected. This person needs to be elected. Then, whatever side decides they don't like who got elected, they can't accuse anybody. They have to just settle down and live with it. The people got to vote. They get what they get. When it gets appointed, if you do that, you better be ready to live with the accusations. If it goes to somebody who looks like they're swayed, and you know what this is all about, it's the casino, still is after all this time, somebody that's swayed either for or against the casino, then various people who are known to either support or not support, or didn't support, and people are going to wonder, do they now switch sides? There's going to be all this stuff to deal with. Do you want to do that? And I don't believe the $70,000 figure. I've called Kearns Elections. I'm waiting to hear from them by Friday. I think that's probably, like all cost figures we ever hear down here, that's as high as it could possibly get. But if it's based on something like a dollar figure per vote, we all know that 25 to 30% of the people vote in this town. The rest of them don't care what's going on, don't bother. So, it could be 25% of the cost, that's this sum total figure that you've been given. I'm going to bother asking Mr. Strand because he won't even respond to me, so let's not go down that road. So that's what you really need to do, this, and do it right, and not be whining about spending even $70,000. You spend $70,000 on things that are way, way less important than this all the time down here.
Thank you, sir.
Marilyn Neal, thank you for listening. I just have to say, Mr. Kelso and my husband have stated my positions pretty clearly, but I'd also like to remind you that, as Mike mentioned, anybody that's really been watching any of this knows what it's all about. They know why we're here. And it's because from the very beginning, everything was rushed through. Rush, 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 rush. The big money came into town and continues to push and continues to push us into this position. And so now, even whether I personally believe that if you do not allow the citizens to vote on this subject, I think one more time, not only are you going to feed the division, but I think one more time you are saying to them, you don't really matter. We're going to have our way. And if anybody thinks that big money isn't playing a lot of cards around here, yeah. So whether you have another election, which I agree with, I think we should let the people elect. But if you don't, let's just think about this. Now you're pushing to have this decision made within the next few weeks. Well, let's not be naive here. We know that it's big casino money that has brought us to this place. They're ready to pounce. They know who to put in there with those applications quick. The people who voted for Mr. Martin believed that that seat was filled. Their vote, because they were not allowed to vote on the issue, they voted for Mr. Martin. They believed that the seat was filled and was going to stay filled. So it's going to take some time. People need time to consider what we're facing now, and are they ready to prepare to put themselves up here on the dais? So I urge you to not be concerned about that number, that figure that it might cost us, because this is a big deal. I don't care whether it's for a few months or whether it was for a full term. Who sits up there is a large issue to every citizen in this community, whether they pay attention or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comment? Okay, seeing none.
I just have one question. Rick, if we decide on January 15th to go to a special election, when would that election happen?
Gosh, I don't know. I have never researched what the extent of time would be.
June?
Probably be June, wouldn't it?
We definitely wouldn't make the March ballot. I know that for sure.
Well, and when you pull papers to run for election, that was what, in July?
Well, that would all
August?
change if we did a special election.
So
for the
I was just thinking,
November election.
They gave you 4 months, or roughly, as a candidate. And so if you backtrack 4 months off of that, and then you run an election, that puts us down to a person serving a 4-month term, or
yeah, exactly. That's
give
my
or
point.
take.
That's my point.
I mean, that's the factors we have to look at when we're making this decision. So the costs and weighing it all together. So it's but that's kind of what we'd be looking at.
Mm-hmm. Is there any comment from staff on that?
I'm aware of 2 times when the council position had to be filled, and they were both filled by appointment. I don't think we've ever had a special election in this community to fill an appointment. One was by death and one was by vacancy before. So,
okay.
With no more public comment, I'm willing to make a motion that we proceed as we outlined earlier, that we request applications be filled out. We put it on the ballot, on the agenda for the next meeting, and that we either make a decision there or make a decision shortly thereafter.
Let me, if I may, let me just restate a couple points that I think Mr. Maurer said, but just to make sure that it's clear. So the motion that Mr. Maurer is making is first that it be by appointment, and next that to direct staff, this is all direction, to direct staff to agendize it for the next meeting, which is December 18, for appointment of a new council member, and that staff will put this application on the webpage right away and without delay, and that the turning in of applications will end on Monday at noon. That's Monday the 16th. And did I miss anything?
I think that's it.
The clerk will forward applications to council members. That you can decide that on that day.
I didn't hear what
I guess the question is I guess does the council want the opportunity to discuss the applicants in closed session?
I would like it to be an open session.
It doesn't mean that you can't accept public comment on the names, but it just gives you the ability to discuss candidly the applicants in closed session if you choose to. If not, that's fine.
So is that something that we have to make a decision on prior?
Well, what I would advise then is the city clerk will agendize a closed session, and that way, if the council decides to forego it, then no problem. Just don't do it. But it can't be added once the agenda goes out without the closed session listed. So,
I understand.
I would like you to verify for sure that we could legally do that if we decide to do that, since we've already been threatened with a lawsuit.
I will do that.
Okay, any other comment, Lindsay?
Well, I wanted to make one comment because Mrs. Neal's comment was commenting on time and feeling like this was rushed. Unfortunately, the state law is dictating that. So we don't get a lot of time. And unfortunately, I agree. We shouldn't be here. An election was held. That was verified by the county clerk. And big money forced that out. So,
sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
She mentioned that big money forced out someone that was elected to their seat and had been verified by the county. So I think it would be good if we could have someone elected, but it is concerning when that election would actually occur, and we don't have that information.
I can tell you 100% it would not be before March because the county is involved in an election in March, and this wouldn't take priority over an entire county election. To try to get them to get us in there alone would back us up a little bit. So to take the process of applications and then get everything through the county, it would definitely be after March. But I just couldn't tell you when.
It would be 114 days. 100, you have to give, if you call it election.
Please speak from up here, Scott, so we can all hear and the people listening.
I don't want to waste time. I just want people to know. It's 114 days. You have to give that much lead time. So if you call, from whatever date you call it, it's 114 days is the earliest you can do it. We are 91 days from the March, so the earliest that you could do it would be later in March. If you were going to do another one, it would be like March 20th or whatever the Tuesday would be in March. So but there is a window. You can't call a snap election. You have to give enough lead time, and 114 was what I read on Google, but it also said 30 days. So, but I just wanted to get that out there. Oh, and one more thing. The county clerk, according to the county clerk, does not verify addresses. So that's another thing that the county clerk says no.
Okay.
All I can tell you is the process I follow.
I'd just like to point out that I don't believe anybody's ever verified that Mr. Leahy is an elections attorney, skilled at anything in the law of elections. So I don't know why you're sitting here letting him advise you about this. You're supposed to have a lawyer to tell you these things, and why he didn't know, along with the city clerk, didn't know these facts before they came to what was inevitably going to be this discussion. It appalls me. I don't know what they're doing to earn their money, but it's not tending to this business, that's for sure. And I don't believe that a special election cannot be held really quick. You're trying to, several of you are pushing to rush an appointment. My God, in 2 weeks' time? Give me a break. That's just hard to believe. That really is hard to believe. But then you turn around and whine about, we can't get an election done soon enough. Well, so what if it waits till after March? Is there some real critical thing? Is there something going on here that people are trying to make happen? Do they want to get this done and before March, and you can't just wait and let the people have their say on this? This is not sounding very good.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I see no more public comment.
Yeah, I make the motion that I made earlier as gone over by Lloyd.
Second.
It'll be a roll call vote.
No.
Mayor Breeden?
Yes.
Mr. Heyman?
Yes.
Mr. Maurer?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
And we did not distinguish in that the open or closed session part. That will be decided when.
I did not hear it stated in the motion to restrict it to open session.
That's correct.
But I did say that I would clarify that before the next meeting.
Yes.
I've already said what I thought it should be. I don't want to impose what I think it should be on the rest of council, but I think it should be an open session.
Point of order, we got a motion on the floor that's waiting for a final vote.
Correct.
Yes.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item.
Okay, Madam Mayor.
Sir.
I have not attended any committee meetings in the last few weeks, so I'm going to excuse myself.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and being here. Let Scott help you get up. We don't want to see you fall.
Getting up's easy, it's getting back down.
Oh, okay. Do you need help out to the car?
No, my wife is here to help me.
Ah, I see her. Thank you. Okay, committee reports, Finance Committee. Scott, did you want to address that?
Excuse me.
Finance?
Finance has not met yet this month.
Okay. Infrastructure?
We did not meet because we had Thanksgiving.
Okay, Economic Development?
We did not meet.
Parks, Rec, and Quality of Life?
No meeting this month.
That item that was discussed, do I understand at the last meeting about, is that going to be on that agenda?
Can you repeat that, please?
The item that
the
the Catlins addressed and others, is that going to be on?
It should be on the next quality of life agenda, yes.
Okay, thank you. I've had numerous people ask, and I said to call and speak to the committee members. Okay.
The Youth Advisory Council, just as a side note, since it wasn't announced when it was announced, the Youth Advisory Council is actually organizing this event. The right before the lighting ceremony, they're doing craft stations with kids and live music. So they've been working hard to organize that. And they've actually been doing a lot of it independently this year, which has been good.
Great job for them. I had Doug Luke come and ask me, since this RACVB is vacant, and Jason has been attending in the past as an alternate when he is not able to go. He was asking, could we continue to have Jason come because he has great ideas and offers good insight to what we can and cannot do. Is that something you need to direct, or?
I do have a new analyst that I would like to assign to that committee because I think that will be in her wheelhouse of her responsibilities. Jason can maybe sit in there temporarily, but I'd like to get the new analyst involved, which I think would be beneficial because that is part of what that position should be engaged in.
Okay, thank you.
I do plan on, we are going to over the next couple of weeks be introducing that employee to all these groups, IWDC, RACVB, Chamber of Commerce. So
Okay.
Yes, the council too, soon.
Okay, other committees, boards, and commissions, has anybody attended any of those? Okay, city manager's report.
I just have one item. As you can see, we've the park staff completed the circle. It looks really good. They had the plaster refinished, and they replaced the grass with rock. We'd like to, over either beginning of next year or the next budget cycle, begin to replace some of the grass we have at City Hall, and one for beautification, and then two for water efficiency. We plan to bring it to Quality of Life for their input on or advice on what we plan on doing.
Okay. All right. Is there future agenda items from anybody on the council? Okay, mayor and council comments? Scott?
No comments.
Lindsay? I have none, so we will adjourn to the December 18th meeting. Thank you all for coming and for your comments.